Would it be? This is defense mode, and I'm now switching into attack mode. Now let's talk about The Last Story 2. I blast corny Jews. I don't know. Look, ever since the rumors came out about The Last Story 2, which was just some kind of German website, I forgot of what kind, just uploaded a... You know what always happens right before one of these E3s or award shows or whatever. There's always some kind of like... There's always some store in some country and some online store somewhere freaking uploading some... what could possibly be a game that comes out, and then they freaking take it out real quickly. And someone on Twitter, screen caps it and shows it, and then we're all hyped up just to get disappointed. Because I'll be honest with you, The Last Story is probably... Last Story is my favorite RPG of all time, probably. Used to be The Legend of Dragoons. Legend of Dragoons or Chrono Cross. You know that original PlayStation era, those great RPGs? JRPGs. Yeah. They're just RPGs. Our RPGs should be called American RPGs. They should just be left alone as RPGs. They're the one that invented it. But of course we're so arrogant, we're just like, hey, yeah, your RPGs, let's put a J in front of it. Our RPGs are no more RPGs. We don't even put USA in front of it. USA RPGs, American RPGs, not just RPGs. We invented it. Anyway, that's beside the point. The fact of the matter is, man, one of the reasons why because a lot of people, well, let me just go back to the Wii era. 2 RPGs came out that really, made a difference. It was Xenoblade Chronicles and The Last Story. Then there's also a third one in that Operation Rainfall thing, which I don't need to really get into. We already know the story. For whatever reason, Nintendo of America did not want to put any RPGs during the Wii era, especially towards the end. All the RPGs that are coming out, they would just stay in Japan. They wouldn't come get a US release. Kind of the opposite of what it is now, but that's the way they thought. And fans are really getting hyped up for Xenoblade and The Last Story and all these RPGs, just to find out that they're not coming to the West. And then, of course, all the fans online freaking, already, had enough of their crap, and then waited Operation Rainfall, which is to get all these games released in the US. And even then, I think it was the Nintendo of Europe that ended up translating Xenoblade and Xseeds or whatever, that company. The name of the company you see in the box of The Last Story case, yeah. They freaking, funded to bring Last Story and that other one. I forgot what the other one's called. But anyway, the last out of the 2 games, Last Story and Xenoblade Chronicles, everyone was fawning over Xenoblade Chronicles, while Last Story was kind of getting not everyone liked it, but they didn't love it. People loved Xenoblade Chronicles. People thought Last Story was straight a good RPG, while everyone else was acting like Xenoblade was like their this century's Final Fantasy 7. Like this is their version of Final Fantasy 7, And when that game came out, actually I'll make another video about it, but during the 7th generation I tapped out. The 7th generation of video games I completely avoided. I wasn't into video games no more, and I came back to an 8th generation, but that's beside the point. The fact of the matter is I didn't play these games until I got the Wii U. And that's another story. But once I got the Wii U, I bought because the Wii U had no games, right? And that's why I keep saying, that's why I say it's going to be for another video, because the Wii U was its own problem. But the Wii U had no games, but luckily it was compatible with the Wii. And because I never played the Wii, or never really had it, there's a lot of games I could play. So those games, Xenoblade Chronicles, the other one, Last Story, because I'm a JRPG guy, and those are the 2 main ones that came out. Especially The Last Story. Right around, I got the Wii U in 2013 January, like a few months after it came out, like 2 months. And I think The Last Story was like one of the very last games that come out for the Wii. Came out like 2012, I think. That's how long it took the Operation Rainfall to actually have some effect. But anyway, I played the Xenoblade Chronicles and Last Story with a consensus being that I'm gonna love Xenoblade Chronicles. It's gonna blow me away, and the Last Story, it's just gonna be a solid RPG. What ended up happening was Xenoblade Chronicles to me was ended up coming to me as overrated. Was The Last Story, because I had lower expectations, that ended up being my favorite game. Because Xenoblade Chronicles kind of following more of that teenager, almost adult trope of this kid and then his friend who's trying to protect him, and then he also has the semi love interest And the Xenoblade Chronicles story was good. You know, freaking, her eventually, pretty much thinking she died. You thinking that she died and whatever, and you guys going through what you're going through. The Monado, only your main character really has the Monado. Everyone else is kind of like, eh. They have their own normal weapons. You're the only one with this blade, and that's fine and all. And then you eventually, I don't mean this. How am I gonna spoil a game that's freaking so it came out 2012, 2010 in freaking Japan, but eventually the girl comes back and that guy Dunban or whatever betrays you and blah 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 blah. The fact of the matter is, the Xenoblade story was good, but because people was overhyped the game so much to me, by the time I actually did play it, it came to me as overrated. That was like my final opinion of it. The game took so long to beat. My God, it took forever to beat. It was freaking all the grinding, and I wasn't really used to it. Like by the time I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I'm used to their style. But at the time, I wasn't used to the style. It kind of felt like an MMORPG. And you could run into monsters that could kill you in one shot, but that doesn't really matter because there's no real like lives and shit. You just end up with the last spot you were in. So like, okay, let me just avoid him. And the thing with Xenoblade Chronicles is just that. But the thing with the last story is I love the characters. One of the first things I could say is that it felt more adult. The last story felt a lot more adult with the characters, And I'm not just saying that because they always mention drinking every 5 seconds with a freaking girl saying, I want to drink, and all that shit. And then, of course, they have the character, like, hitting on all the girls and then hitting on all the bitches. And then freaking, the main characters are, like, bland because everyone else has so much personality. He has to be the kind of bland one that stays stuck in the middle. And then you have one of your other characters is kind of like semi-emo. He's always, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like standoffish, like he doesn't want anyone bothering him. He just like, oh, you shouldn't trust people or something stupid crap like that. Then they have another girl character who's kind of like acts like kind of motherly to you and always says, hey, don't go reckless and blah 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 blah. And their stories are interesting when you get into them. And then of course the main girl character in the last story is kind of bland too, but like the girl in the Xenoblade Chronicles is not much interesting either. But the last story one was my game. Mainly because of the battle system. Let me just get to the root of what I'm trying to say. The battle system. Xenoblade Chronicles battle system feels like an MMORPG. You go close to the animals. Know what I'm saying? When you get close to the enemies, you start swinging the sword. And then once you swing the sword enough, the thing circles power up, and then you use a power move. And then eventually you get your characters. You do enough of that. You get, get elements, and then, do chain attacks and blah, blah, blah. It's all cool and all. But it's not like the most exciting battle system ever. It does require a lot of strategy. But Last Stories requires a lot of strategy too, and I love their battle system because it feels more action oriented. It's like what we always wanted RPGs to be as a kid, because I was into RPGs since I was a kid, and then eventually when you're a kid, I remember thinking like, eventually they need to evolve from this whole turn-based thing. And to me, this is the perfect evolution. I don't think any RPG's ever done the battle system as good as the Last Story. It feels like you're playing like almost like a hack and slash game, but you're not. It does the same thing where like you run up to the enemies and he attacks automatically, but there's so much more to it. It feels so actionetty and like actionetty. I'm making up words. The hell's wrong? But it feels like action oriented. A lot of swinging the sword and a lot of magic attacks from your characters. You have to know exactly when they're gonna do the move, and you have to like grab the little heal orbs and smash them in the ground, and then you have to be in that little circle to heal them. You have to make sure your characters are near them so they can get healed. And if there's like, if one of your element character does an element attack, it's in a little circle, you have to run towards it, you get fire in your blade and you hit stronger, and the enemy might be weak against this. And the Last Story's battle system was just great, and that was one of the main reasons I fell in love with it. The story isn't the most unique story you're ever gonna freaking hear, but that doesn't really matter. Like the story doesn't have to be complicated and have a whole bunch of holes in it. It just needs to make sense and have a point. The point of the Last Story, there are a whole bunch of mercenaries. The main character and then his best friend, they meet each other as kids when when he was getting bullied or some crap. And they wanted their dreams were to become knights because they saw one guy in a knight suit walking by, and that happens sometimes. You're a kid and you see somebody of some certain status passing by and you be like, I want to be just like him. And that's what happened with them, and they wanted to be knights. They ended up becoming mercenaries because that there's two wild, poor kids. How the hell they're gonna become knights? And they ended up they ended up becoming mercenaries, forming the whole group, and their dream all this time later is still to become knights. And the story revolves around that. Eventually, the love story gets in when he meets the girl and all that stuff, and he starts falling for her and all that crap. But the whole point of it was become knights. They eventually do become knights, and then main character starts, realizing that, being a knight is not all it's cracked up to be, because then, like, the person you're serving for isn't, the best, has the best interest of the people, is not the greatest human being, or whatever the hell. And then, then the guy's like thinking like, hey, maybe what we've been doing this whole time, being mercenaries, is not the worst thing on the planet, even though, we've been taught like, mercenaries are bad or blah, 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 blah. Instead of just trying to be official and be a knight, because of all the way all this politics and all this war and all this crap happens, and then maybe just good enough being a mercenary. And not like the princess of that kingdom wants to be, the queen or whatever anyway. So he starts to second guessing it, while his friend is still like, no, man, we've done all this to become knights, you're not going to screw it up. And then, he was manipulating things the whole time. He ends up being the main bad guy at the end and almost killed one of your other partners and all this stuff. And that was the last. And then at the end, other than other games like Xenoblade, who wants to like end the whole love story between him and the girl as just like, hey, let me look at you, let me look at you, look at me, and we both stare at each other, then we stare back, into the ocean, and then, hey, at the end, they actually get married at the end, because at least they followed up properly to their love story. And that's all that really mattered to me. The last story had a good story. It had a beginning and ending. It made sense. You could kind of see with the twists and turns happening. Like, they didn't make the main villain be a surprise. You could probably see it coming a mile away by the time it happens. Just because you can see it coming a mile away doesn't mean it's bad. I actually prefer if I can see something coming a while away, if it's, story is told good, compared to, what Xenoblade did with the whole surprise of Dunban or whatever, freaking just turning on him at the last second. But, yeah, so anyway, the whole point of this is the last story 2. I was looking forward to the last story 2. The rumors came up like 2 days ago. A few channels made, uploads about it. And I really wanted this game to come. Now, I had to work, so I couldn't, be watching the awards games or whatever it's called, the award show, whatever. But I was, keeping an eye, refreshing YouTube, trying to see a freaking trailer for the last story 2 on either Nintendo's or PlayStation channel. And I was sadly disappointed. The only thing that was good about it, I saw Mortal Kombat 11 got uploaded, thank God. Mortal Kombat is my favorite fighting game. So I'm glad that they're coming out with another game. It's probably going to come out for the PS5. Probably PS5 and PS4. But man, now I'm disappointed. No last story 2, at least not yet. Because why would that whatever the hell that thing uploaded last story 2, why would they have uploaded that with the case if a last story 2 wasn't going to come out? So maybe last story 2 is still coming out. And I pray to the Lord. I praise to the Lord that it still is going to end up coming out. Because now I'm disappointed. I was really looking forward to this, and now I'm here disappointed. Now my favorite RPG is not getting a sequel, at least not yet. And I'm disappointed. Right here. I just hope that we freaking get a sequel. I hope this is not a falsiality. I hope we end up getting this damn sequel. I really do. Anyway, I'm switching back to defense mode, and I'm out.